Jerusalem than this one here. When was it built? 1965. How long it took us to build? Almost 4 years. This replica will describe Jerusalem as the city was during the time of the temple, the second temple. So it's called the second, ancient Jerusalem, not old Jerusalem. This is not the old city. This is not this. It is this. That's the ancient city, the one which is under. You understand? Okay. This is not the old, this is the ancient. It's like, this was Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. So in 1965, when we started to build a replica, we didn't have all the information about the ancient city that we have nowadays. Why? Why? Because the city had the border in the middle. And do you remember how many times I said on the bus that 19 years we couldn't and start digging because Jordan controlled the area where the ancient city was. So when we started to build this replica, we did it with written records, books. What are the books? Have you heard the name Josephus Flavius? A famous historian. I will quote from him tomorrow when we shall do the tour of Masada. He's giving us a lot of information about what happened there at Masada. And he's describing in a very detailed way the city of Jerusalem because he lived at that time. And we also used a Jewish, writing called the Mishnah. But the Mishnah is mainly dealing with the temple and not so much with the city. The temple and all the chambers around and the Temple Mount, but not the city. And then came the year 1967. And what happened in 1967 in Jerusalem? 6-Day War. And what was Jerusalem after the 6-Day War? A city without a border in the middle. A city with free access to each, every place. So we went to the places where we couldn't be, and we started to uncover, looking for the ancient under the old. And each time when we found buildings from ancient Jerusalem, and we thought that they were not described properly in the replica, we came to the replica and we modified those buildings here. So not only that it's a good one, it's an excellent. It is also based on what we discovered. This replica has a scale. It's a scale model. And what's the scale of this replica? 1 inch in this replica equivalent to 3 foot in the reality of the ancient city. Okay. As you can see, it was built using small bricks of limestone. I don't know if you saw, but even today, 2,000 years later, each and every building in Jerusalem must be made of limestone. Not just limestone, the Jerusalem limestone, and this is by law. You cannot use any other material. This is not like Tel Aviv, where you can do whatever you want. In Jerusalem, to make a unity, all buildings must be, not just building, even the floor, even the paving stones that are, paving the ground must be, you see a little retaining wall, limestone, Jerusalem limestone. Wow. This is how Jerusalem, was and still is. This replica is describing in a very good way also the landscape. Do you remember what are the 4 things that I was mentioning yesterday when we stood on Mount of Olives? And I told you, don't start with buildings. Let's start with the ground. Yes? What are the 4 names, you know, that I mentioned regarding the ground level of Jerusalem. Water is number 3 in this context. First of all, the two valleys, the Kidron and the Hinnom, then the Gihon Spring, the water source, and Mount Moriah, correct? So before going upstairs and making the tour around, we need to be oriented. We need to know directions. You cannot tour this replica without knowing, you know, where are you in relation to the replica and where are the directions. Okay. So, can you see that group standing up there? They will be standing as if they are on Mount of Olives. Of course, this is not the real Mount of Olives. It will be as if they are on Mount of Olives, and therefore that side will be east. All right? Can you see the group that is moving up there? That's south. This is west, and we are now in the northern end of Jerusalem. So east, south, west, north. Let's go east, please. Let's go east.
I think I it's making me sleepy.
Yeah, I know.
And I took only half.
Wow.